Once upon a time, beneath the twisted roots of a grand old oak tree, in a cozy burrow, lined with soft moss and fallen leaves, lived a curious young rabbit named Peter. With his snowy white tail and ears that twitched at every sound, Peter was known throughout the meadow for getting into just a little bit more mischief than most. He had 3 siblings, Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. They were good little rabbits who listened to their mother, but Peter had a spirit of adventure that often led him down paths he probably shouldn't have taken. One sunny morning, the air smelled of sweet clover, and the gentle breeze carried birdsong through the trees. It was the kind of morning that made a young rabbit's feet feel bouncy. Inside their burrow, Peter's mother was stirring a big pot of carrot stew, the warm, earthy scent filling their home. She paused, spoon in hand, and turned to her children with a look that was both kind and firm. She had a basket and her umbrella, ready to go to the baker's to buy a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. "Now, my dears," she began, her voice calm but serious, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor." Her words hung in the air for a moment. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were very good little bunnies, all nodded their heads and went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, had other ideas. The moment his mother's back was turned, he ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden. The warning about the pie only made the forbidden vegetables seem all the more tempting. What could be so delicious that it was worth such a risk? He squeezed under the gate, his heart thumping with a mix of fear and excitement. And what a sight met his eyes! Rows and rows of bright green lettuce, bunches of crisp radishes, and plump, juicy French beans. Forgetting all about his mother's words, Peter started to nibble. First he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then, feeling a bit sick, he went to look for some parsley. Around the end of a cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor himself? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and shouting, "Stop, thief!" Peter was dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his new blue jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the toolshed, jumping into a watering can. It would have been a beautiful place to hide, if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the toolshed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. "Curdy-scoo!" Mr. McGregor was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp from sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all round. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. an old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. He came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his watering cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Screw-rich, scratch, scratch, scritch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go along a straight walk behind some blackcurrant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. That evening, Peter was not very well. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter, 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. And that's the tale of Peter Rabbit's very big, very scary adventure. He learned that day that while gardens might look tempting, listening to your mother is always the wisest choice. Thank you so much for joining us for this story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more classic tales. We'll see you next time.